I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating during our wedding week. I mean, I knew we had some rough patches, who does? But I genuinely believed that after all the planning, the months of arguing, and the endless compromises, we were finally headed towards something real. I'm James, by the way, and my wife's name is Lisa. We'd been together for 5 years, and I thought I knew everything about her. Turns out I was dead wrong. The signs started subtly, or so I thought. She began acting strange a few days before the wedding. She'd disappear for hours, claiming she was checking on the venue or getting some last-minute stuff from her parents. But there was a new nervousness in her eyes, a jitteriness that didn't sit right. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed or I was overthinking because everything was about to change. But then I noticed her phone kept slipping into her purse whenever I looked, and she'd get defensive if I asked to see it. Little things, but enough to make me feel uneasy. Our wedding was supposed to be a celebration, but I felt a knot tightening in my stomach the entire day. Lisa was acting distant, distracted even. She'd smile at me, sure, but there was this flicker of something else behind her eyes, like she was hiding an entire world from me. During the reception, I caught her whispering into her phone more than once. I saw her glance around nervously like she was hiding something, and she kept making excuses, saying she was checking her messages or dealing with her parents. Yeah, right. Then came the night before the wedding when I finally decided to do some digging. We'd been staying at her parents' house, and I noticed her phone was sitting on the nightstand. I figured, what the hell, I've known her long enough to know her passwords, and I was just curious. I unlocked it casually, expecting a few texts or maybe some work emails. But what I found made my stomach drop. Hidden in a folder called Memories, behind a bunch of old family photos, was a string of texts. Not just any texts, they were from her, but they weren't about wedding planning or I love you messages. They were flirty, explicit, talking about how much she wanted this guy, how she couldn't wait to see him again, how the sex with him was better than with me. My heart started pounding. I scrolled back through more messages, and it was obvious she'd been seeing this guy, I'll call him Mark, for months, probably right under my nose. The worst part, she lied about her whereabouts every time I'd asked. Said she was at her parents' house, but she was with him instead. There were even pictures of her and Mark from a few weeks back, taken in a hotel room. The texts were full of promises, seduction, and outright lies. That was the moment I knew. It wasn't just a mistake or a one-time thing. She'd been cheating on me with my own brother, Tom, during our wedding week. I felt numb, like someone had punched me in the gut and then poured petrol all over my chest. How the hell did I miss this? How did she manage to hide it all so perfectly? I wasn't just betrayed, I was gutted. All the wedding plans, the promises, the future I envisioned, shattered in a single moment of betrayal. I stared at her phone for what felt like hours, replaying everything I'd seen, trying to make sense of it. And I knew deep down that nothing would be the same again. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, trying to process everything I'd uncovered. I knew I couldn't keep this quiet. I had to confront her. I waited until she was in the kitchen, pretending to be calm, but inside I was boiling with rage and confusion. I grabbed her phone silently and stared at her as she was pouring coffee. She looked up at me, eyebrows raised, trying to act innocent, as if she had no idea what I was about to do. Without a word, I turned the phone around and showed her the messages. Her face went pale. She blinked rapidly, then quickly tried to brush it off, saying, "James, it's not what you think. It's just some stupid text. It doesn't mean anything." She was full of bullshit, and I could tell she knew she was caught. I felt a fire ignite inside me that I hadn't known existed. All the pain, the betrayal, the lying, it poured out in my voice. I told her, "You've been sleeping with my brother during our wedding week. How could you do this to me?" Her reaction was classic Lisa. She threw her head back, scoffing. "Oh, please, James, you're overreacting. Maybe I needed some excitement. Maybe your brother is better in bed than you. Honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. It's just sex." Her words hit me like a slap, just sex, like it was nothing. I felt my blood boil. I couldn't believe she was trying to brush it off like her betrayal was some kind of joke. She kept lying, saying she was under a lot of pressure, that it was just a stupid mistake, and it didn't mean anything serious. She called me paranoid, said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, that I was insecure, but I knew better. I knew her pattern. She always lied her way out of shit, and this time was no different. I felt sick. How could she lie so easily? How could she be so callous? I was furious. But mostly I was hurt deeply. My entire world was crumbling and she was acting like I was overreacting. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't even look at her right now. I went outside, took a walk on the street trying to breathe. The sunlight felt cold. I kept replaying her words in my head, trying to understand how someone I loved could betray me so badly, so quickly. The shock was overwhelming. I'd always believed she was loyal, that she was the one. Turns out she'd been lying the whole time, hiding this secret life that I had no idea about. While I was outside, I found myself checking her phone again just to be sure I hadn't missed anything. That's when I saw the photos of her and Mark in a hotel room curled up together. I stared at the images, feeling my stomach twist. It was real. It was undeniable. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just stood there, frozen. How did I miss all the signs? How did I not see this coming? The betrayal cut so deep I felt like I was bleeding inside. I did know how to process the pain or what to do next. All I knew was that my wife had lied to me, cheated on me, and done it with my own brother. And now I was left standing there, broken and betrayed, trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. After I finished walking around for what felt like hours, I finally went back inside. The house was silent, almost too quiet. Lisa was sitting on the sofa, pretending to read a magazine, but her eyes kept darting toward me. I could see she knew I was planning something, and honestly, I didn't give her the satisfaction of any apology or explanation. I was too angry, too hurt. I just looked at her and said, "We need to talk now." My voice was steady, but inside I was boiling over. She tried to act dismissive, like this was all some big misunderstanding. She threw out some typical bullshit about how she was stressed, how she didn't mean for it to happen, and how she loved me but made a mistake. She was at her most bitchy and dismissive, trying to make it seem like I was overreacting. That only made me angrier. I knew her pattern. She always played the victim when she got caught, but this wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal of the worst kind. I told her straight up, "You lied, you cheated. You fucked my brother during the week I was supposed to be marrying you. Do you even understand how fucked up that is?" Her face contorted into this annoyed, bitchy expression, and she snapped back, "You're overreacting. I was stressed out. You think I wanted this? You think I planned to cheat on you? Please, James, get real." She kept throwing excuses, like she was trying to convince herself it was nothing serious, but I wasn't buying it. I asked her how long she'd been sleeping with Mark. She dodged for a second, then said, "A few months maybe. I don't know, it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." It was a pathetic excuse, and I could see through it. She was trying to minimize everything, as if cheating on me was just some careless fling instead of a full-blown affair. I felt the tears prick at my eyes, but I clenched my jaw and kept my voice cold. I told her, "You lied to me about everything. Your whereabouts, your fidelity, your honesty. How can I trust anything you say now?" Her reaction was classic Lisa. She started crying, acting all innocent and victimized. "James, I love you. I made a mistake, I swear. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please don't throw this all away. We can fix it. We're supposed to be starting this new life together." But I saw through her tears. That was just her way of manipulating, of making me feel guilty so I wouldn't blow everything up right then and there. I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. My head was spinning, and I felt like I was about to explode. I told her I needed space. I needed to think, to breathe, to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. I grabbed my keys and left the house, not knowing whether I was going to come back or not. I was hurt, furious, and broken all at once. The only thing I knew for sure was that Lisa had crossed a line I could never ignore, and now I was faced with the worst betrayal a person could imagine. I drove around aimlessly for a while, trying to clear my head, but nothing helped. Every turn, every song I heard reminded me of her, of Lisa, the woman I thought I knew. My mind kept circling back to the texts, the photos, her lies. I couldn't believe she'd done this during our wedding week of all times. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet, and I was just falling faster and faster into some dark abyss of rage and heartbreak. Eventually, I found myself parked outside my brother Tom's house. I knew I had to confront him, too. I couldn't just let this slide. I felt a mixture of shock and betrayal, not just from Lisa but from him as well. He was supposed to be my brother, my family. How could he do this? How could he sleep with my wife, my partner, during a week that was supposed to be about love and commitment? My hands trembled as I reached for the door and knocked, not knowing what I was going to say or how he would react. Tom answered after a few seconds, looking nervous. I could see the guilt in his eyes before he even said a word. I didn't waste time. I told him exactly what I'd found, showing him the screenshots of Lisa's texts and the photos of her in the hotel room. You knew about this, didn't you? I asked, voice tight with anger. You were sleeping with her and you didn't tell me. How long has this been going on? He looked down, then mumbled, It's not what you think, James. It just happened. I didn't plan for it. She came onto me. Yeah, right. That was the usual bullshit and I wasn't buying it. I told him, You're my brother. You're supposed to have my back, not fuck my wife behind my back. Do you even realize what you've done? He tried to justify himself, said something about being weak, about feeling neglected. But I wasn't interested in excuses. I was furious. I told him I needed some time to think, and I left him standing there, feeling the weight of his betrayal just as heavy as mine. The rest of that day was a blur. I spent hours alone, trying to make sense of everything. The heartbreak was crushing, but the anger was worse. I couldn't understand how two people I loved and trusted could betray me so completely. I kept asking myself if I had missed the signs, if I was blind to what they were doing behind my back. The painful truth was that I'd been living in a bubble, and that bubble had burst spectacularly. I finally made the decision to tell Lisa I was done. I didn't want her to call or come over. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. I packed a bag and left her house, feeling hollow. The house that once felt like a home now echoed with the ghost of my broken trust. I knew I needed to get away, to breathe, to start figuring out what life looked like after this ruin. But I also knew one thing for sure. I would never forget the sting of betrayal, and I'd never forgive her or Tom for what they did. The wounds felt too deep, and I was pretty sure this was a scar that would stay with me forever. The days that followed were a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I stayed in a motel trying to keep my head clear, but every moment was haunted by the images of Lisa and Tom together, the lies, the betrayal. I'd never felt so empty in my life. I kept replaying everything, wondering how I missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to what was really going on beneath the surface. It hit me hard that the woman I loved, the one I'd trusted with everything, had been lying about her entire life. And the brother I thought was my close family, my blood, had stabbed me in the back like that. I knew I had to plan my next move. I couldn't just let this go. I didn't want to be some emotional wreck forever, but I also didn't want to do anything impulsive. I needed a plan. I started thinking about revenge, not just because I was angry, but because I needed to feel like I had some control over the chaos. Maybe it was petty, maybe it was twisted, but I wanted Lisa to see that I wasn't just going to walk away and forget about it like she hoped. She needed to know I knew, and I was going to make her regret ever crossing that line. The first thing I did was dig deeper into her phone. I knew I couldn't trust just what I saw before. I needed more proof, more details. I started looking through her social media accounts, her emails, anything that might reveal more about her secret life. And I found even more. Hidden conversations with Mark, plans for secret meetups, explicit messages that she thought no one knew about. She kept a whole false life going, a double life, and I had been completely oblivious until now. But the real kicker was what I found in her email drafts. She'd been planning to leave me, to move away with Mark, to start fresh somewhere new. She'd even bought a new phone, hidden it away so she could keep talking to him without me catching on. That's when I knew I had to do something drastic. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning her escape. I started putting together a plan. I reached out to a lawyer, figuring out my rights, and I also contacted a private investigator. Not that I wanted to ruin her life, well, maybe a little, but I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't just going to sit back and be a victim. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies, her betrayal, her selfishness. Meanwhile, I was also figuring out how to confront her in a way that would leave her stunned. I knew she thought she was in control, that I'd take her back or forgive her like some kind of doormat. but I wasn't going to do that. I was preparing to blow her world apart, to make her realize that no matter how much she lied or tried to hide it, I had all the evidence. And I was ready to rip the mask off her face. Honestly, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, heartbreak, betrayal, but also a strange sense of clarity. I'd been a good man, loyal and caring, and she'd thrown all that away for some cheap sex and a quick escape. She thought she could lie her way out, but I was determined to make her pay. I knew this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing her she couldn't get away with this. It was about finally taking control of my life again, even if it meant burning everything down first. The day I finally confronted Lisa was the day I decided I'd had enough of pretending everything was okay. I showed up at her place with all the evidence I'd gathered: screenshots, emails, the photos, everything. Her face twisted into that familiar annoyed, bitchy expression when she realized I wasn't messing around. She tried to deny everything at first, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that I was crazy or jealous. But I laid everything out, calm, cold, and unshakable, until she finally broke down. She screamed, called me possessive, paranoid, and told me I was overreacting. She tried to spin it like I was the villain for accusing her of something so horrible. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I saw her for what she was: a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could cheat and lie her way out of everything. I told her she was done, that I was done, and walked out of that house for good. The aftermath was messy. I cut ties with her and my brother. I filed for divorce, and I made damn sure everyone knew what she'd done, so she couldn't spin her lies anymore. I moved out, leaving the house that had become a prison of betrayal. For a while I felt broken, angry, sad, and full of regret. But slowly I started to rebuild. I realized that I was better off without her, that I deserved someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, and betray me. Looking back, I learned a lot about trust, about how some people can hide darkness behind a pretty face. I learned that revenge isn't really about hurting them, it's about reclaiming your own dignity, your sense of self. And I learned that even in the worst betrayals, you find a way to move forward. I won't pretend I got over everything overnight. The scars are still there, but so is the strength I never knew I had. If I have any advice, it's this: trust your gut. When something feels off, don't ignore it. And when the truth finally comes out, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is knowing your worth and never letting anyone treat you like you're disposable.